Hello guys, today I will speak about the role of culture in international business. It is one of the main topics in international business. You see the photo from Indian movie related to our topic. Now, what we will discuss in this topic, we will discuss the primary characteristics of culture, describe the various elements of culture and provide examples of how they influence international business and identify the means by which members of a culture communicate with each other and discuss how religious and other values affect the domestic environments in which international business operate and how slow context and high context approach developed by Edward and Mildred Hall. Firstly, let's learn about the word is culture. Culture is the collection of values, attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, customs that distinguish one society from another. What is characteristic of culture? Culture is learned behavior, culture is interrelated, culture is adaptive, and culture is shared. Let's explain all of them. Firstly, we said that culture is learned behavior. What is it? Because that culture is transmitted from one member of a society to another. Firstly, we learn the culture from our family. Then we go to school and we learn the culture there. Then it is getting like that. Let's give the example about it. That some of the elements of culture, it is language. Let's say that English baby, he grows up in Azerbaijani family and from childhood, he will speak like Azerbaijani, the native Azerbaijani speaker, because the language, the culture, it doesn't come from our genetics. It is the learned behavior. In which society we are, we will take their culture. And the next one, culture is interrelated. What is it? For example, this is the example about the Japan. Japan is group-oriented. Hierarchy society stresses harmony, loyalty, which historically translated into lifetime employment and minimal job switching. For example, this is the example about the Japan, that cultural system. And the next one, guys, culture is adaptive. It comes from the culture is learned behavior. What we said, first we said that culture is learned behavior, and that is why culture is adaptive. Because that there are the external forces, and for these external forces, we can adopt that another culture. That there is an example about it. For example, that you see the example from Germany. After World War II, the Germany was divided into two places, that parts, the West Germany, West, and East Germany, Ossis. They are from same heritage, they are same nation, but because of the cultural differences, because the West Germany was free market oriented, but East Germany was communist controlled, and that is why that there was the cultural differences because of these external forces. Another example about it, for example, Azerbaijani. Azerbaijanis that who live in Azerbaijan and Azerbaijanis who live in Iran, under control of Iran. And we are the same nation, we are from same heritage, but because of the external forces, we can see some cultural differences that between us. And the next one, culture is shared. What is it? Culture is shared by members of society and indeed defines the membership in the society. The individuals who share a culture are members of a society. Those who do not are outside the boundaries of the societies. And here you see the elements of culture. There are 5 elements of culture: the social structure, language, communication, religion, values, and attitudes. Now let's explain each of them. Firstly, we see social structure. It includes individuals, families, and groups, then social stratification, and then social mobility. What is it? Firstly, that individuals, families, and groups, that it includes defining family, individuals' role within groups, and importance of the individual related to these groups. Guys, what is it? That we all have some roles in our family, in our groups, and we all have the importance that as individuals in some groups. It doesn't matter, it is in our workplace or in our friendship groups or in our family. And the next one, it is a social stratification. And the elements of social stratification, it is that attribute highly stratified societies and less stratified societies. What is it, guys? The social stratifications that in each societies, people are differentiated for their education, level, their careers, and their birth, their occupation, yeah? They are the attributes of social stratification. And in which societies, the importance of it, that for these attributes, people that are more differentiated, they are the highly stratified societies. But in which societies that the importance of these attributes are not so that important that for that to make the relationship, and they are the less stratified societies. And for example, that you can remember it from history lesson that there were the case in India. This is like that. And social mobility. Guys, what is social mobility? Social mobility, it is an ability of individuals to move from one stratum to another. And there is a relationship between the social mobility and social stratification. And what is the relationship here? And that what we said that social mobility, it is that ability of individuals to move from one stratum to another, yes? Okay, but in which societies it is like that? If it is highly stratified societies, there is low social mobility. The social mobility is low. But in less stratified societies, social mobility is high. That the relationship is like that. And the next one, language. And what is language? That it is delineates cultural groups and shapes one's perceptions of the world and filters observation and perceptions, provides important clues about the cultural values of societies and offers indication about the diversity of a country's population. And what they mean now, that let's learn about it. That language is a competitive weapon. What is it, guys, that you see that linguistic legacy of colonialism? Firstly, that our verbal communication, it is via language, yeah? Okay, and in our workplaces, in businesses, it is like that. If you know that a lot of languages, especially that business language, it is in mainly English, yeah? Okay, it is our advantages. And that is why we say that language is competitive weapon. The next one, predominant common language or lingua franca. What is the lingua franca? That, as you understand, that it is the predominant common language. After the World War II, English became the predominant language, especially that in international business, that English, it is the main language to communicate with each other. Yes, that imagine that we make the business with Spain, and we don't know Spanish, and they do not know Azerbaijani, and we need that the same language, that how we can communicate with each other. For example, that English, yes, it is a common language, mostly. And the translation and back translation, yes, as now we say that there is a difference, yeah, okay, and we need that to use the common language. And there is a less that imagine like that. There is the Azerbaijani text, and we have to translate it into English. This translation, yes, we know. But what is the back translation? We know that there is the linguistic differences among the languages. And when we translate the text, we can eliminate some parts of it. We can miss some parts of it. Or maybe that we can misunderstand the word. The back translation, it is the checking, like the checking process. Yes, it is like that. There is a text in Azerbaijani, and we translate it in Azerbaijani. Then we translate it again, the same, English. The same text we translate it from English to Azerbaijani. It is a back translation, and via it we can check that actually we really express that what we really want to say, that what is our message. It is really that what we want to say. And the next one, words may have different meanings. Yes, we know that yes, even that in English-speaking countries, we can see that this is the same word, but the meanings of the words that can differ depending on the countries. And you see that they are saying now, for example, guys, that in business etiquette in Japan, it is that unethical behavior that saying no, that they do not say that directly no, they say that in indirectly way. And the next one, another element of culture, it is communication. And you see that here, non-verbal communication. Actually, we used to speak about the verbal communication. Now let's speak about the non-verbal communication. What is that non-verbal communication? We see the examples that about it, facial expressions, hand gestures, now you see, and intonation, eye contact, this is important, body positioning, body posture. It is that actually about that body language. It is important, so important, because that when we make the verbal communication, maybe that we can speak about something, but maybe our that non-verbal communication, for example, facial expression, actually, it really shows that our feelings about it. For example, I say that, for example, some team that, let's say that about the football, Real Madrid, and I say that I am the supporter of Real Madrid, if I am the supporter, and I give the information about it, and I say that Real Madrid is a champion, yes, and if I'm happy and you see that my facial expressions that I'm happy, yes, it means that yes, I'm happy because of it. But if I say that that Real Madrid is a champion and you see that I'm not happy, there is a grief, like that I am sad, it means that actually it shows that my real emotion about it. And about the hand gestures, guys, that there is that critic that points that hand gestures, it is a little bit can be dangerous. Why? That we have to take into account that with which country, that with which nations that we make that business and we make the communication, because that there are some hand gestures that the meanings can differ related to that depending on the countries, and that is why that we have to be careful about it and we have to make that investigation about it, that for example we use these hand gestures, yes, actually, but what is the meaning of these hand gestures in this country? And the next one in gift giving and hospitality, guys, and it is the important means of communication. Different gift giving etiquettes and hospitality customs also differ, and communicating bad news, guys. And gift giving etiquettes, yes, it is about business, guys. There are a lot of gift giving etiquettes depending on the countries. In each countries they have their cultural rules about it. And for example, in some countries that in Japan, I want to give the example about Japan. For example, they have the special gift giving etiquette that in some circumstance. For example, in this circumstance that they can give this gift, or that it is actually different, and they are so attentive about it. And hospitality, guys, yes, our hospitality, that in each nation, the hospitality, it is different. You can see that, for example, some societies, some nations, they like to show their traditional traditions, and they bring their guests to the traditional restaurants and traditional places, some historical places. But in some countries, it is not like that. You can see the difference like that too. And communicating bad news, guys, and it is like that. There is a bad news, and how to give this bad news and when to give this bad news. And I want to give the example from USA and from Korea. In USA, it is like that. They want to give bad news as soon as possible. But in Korea, it is like that. They try to give the bad news in the end of the day. Why they do it? Because they say that it is already bad news and it will ruin the people's whole day. And that is why they think that it is better to give it in the end of the day. But in Azerbaijan we say that yes, pis haber tez yaylar. Yes, and it means that yes, actually that we are like USA too. Actually, we tend to give the bad news as soon as possible too. And guys, the religion, you see that here this is map, and you know that there is the four main religions in the world. That first of all, that it is the amount of about the numbers. First it is the Christianity, then Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. You see, and religion is important that when we make that international communication, international business, and some connection, because you know that now that we are majority of people in Azerbaijan, they are the Muslims, yeah. And if you make that business with Islamic countries, in which countries the importance of it is high, actually it will be easier for us to understand them, because we actually believe in Islam too, and that is why we are aware about it. But let's think about that. For example, Japan, for example, Shintoism, yeah, that most of us do not know about it. And for it, that we need that additional investigations, guys. And there is that elements of religion, the shapes, attitudes of adherence, yes, and you see that there is a difference, that it is not just about their attitudes, that foods, that for example there are some foods that it is considered haram in Islam and that we have to take into account it, or maybe in another, that for example in Buddhism maybe that there's another thing is considered like haram that we have to consider, have to take into account it. And the next one concentrates the roles of individuals in society, affects consumer buying behavior, yes, now I said, and affects seasonal patterns of consumption, and impact of international business, legal system, homogeneity of religious beliefs, and tolerance. Guys, now that I said that homogeneity of religion beliefs, that if there is the homogeneity, if you are from the same religions, yes, you can understand that each other that better than others because of it is the same. And the tolerance, it doesn't matter, guys, that what is our religion belief, that we have to respect to each others. Maybe that it is the opposite of your religion belief, but still that we have to make the tolerance each others. And the next one, and the last one, it is values and attitudes. The elements of it, time, age, education, and status. Now, let's explain all of them. The first one, it is time. And yes, time is important, and we say that time is gold. Yes, but depending on the societies, the importance of time is changed. Yes, actually, we say that time is important, yes, but how important is it? Actually, I think that in our society, we do not think that time is so important. Actually, important, of course, but not that so much as some Anglo-Saxon cultures. That in these cultures, it is so important because they think that time is money. And if they lose the time, it means that they lose the profit too. But that, especially that now I will speak about the low context culture and high context culture. For example, in high context culture, it is that, yes, it is important too, but they do not consider it like that, yes, so that, that critical point that they lose the money. And the next one, age, that it is one of the main cultural differences. For example, in United States, in US, they prefer to that young people that at workplaces because they think that they are fast trackers, they are the fast learnings, and that is why. But in that Arabian countries, in some Asian countries, that age that considered like that respect, that if that you are older, yes, they respect you more. It is like that. And the next one, education. Yes, that the level of education, that it is different that in countries that you see here, that what is the education level, the public sector or private sector, and etc. And the status. Yes, status, yes, we all have some status in society, and in some countries this status that come from their heritage, for example, wealth and etc. But in some society they think that no, it is not good, but it has to be gained by ourselves. Then. And actually that I gave a little bit brief information about the low context culture and high context culture. What is it? Now I will explain about it. You see that the elements of it, words, context, cultural clues, and business behaviors. And you see the example that about the low context cultures and high context culture, in which that countries there is the low context culture and high context culture. You see that Anglo-Saxon countries, they are the low context culture, for example, that you see that British, Australian, for Canada, USA, and German, you see that the German countries, Swiss, that most of the West European countries, they are the low context culture, most of, not that, all of them. And what about the high context culture? You see that, for example, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Japan, that Arabian countries, Greek, that you see that from that European countries, and Spanish and Turkey and Azerbaijan, we are in high context culture too. Now that let's explain that what does it mean, that and what is the difference between them. And we say that it is that actually that developed by Edward and Mildred Hall. And firstly, that we said that verse that in low context culture they that disseminate the message, they are that actually verse in this message. They are the explicit, but in high context culture not so explicit. It is implicit. They do not say that directly, indirectly. And the next one that about the business behaviors that there is the different. For example, if you watch the advertisements that some Western European countries and some that Arabian countries, Asian countries, you can see the differences between them. That let's say like that if you watch that German advertisements, you can see that they are the most fact oriented, mostly fact oriented. But in Japan, they are not like that. They are the emotional. That you can see that they are advertisement that is mostly emotional emotional oriented. For example, Turkey, in Azerbaijan, we can see it too. That we are the more emotional oriented. Okay, yes, it is the end of our lesson. Unfortunately, our time is limited, and that is why I used to speak about some part of it. And see you next time.